quick prelude to this video. I am by no means a professional Bojagi artist. When I discovered this unique Korean cultural art form, I wanted to share my love of this to anyone who is interested. As you're watching this video, please keep in mind that I am showing you techniques as a left-handed individual and someone who may not sew exactly by the manual. I'm teaching the basics and the concepts as my Korean master teacher taught me a little over a year ago. I want to pass on to you the same words of wisdom that she passed on to me. The main concept of Bojagi stitching is creating a uniform stitch that starts from one end to the other and the seam is closed. However you do that, that's your way. You want to get from point A to point B with uniform stitching. There is absolutely not a right or wrong way of doing Bojagi. Creativity is how you see it, and whatever or however you want to perfect that creativity, own it. To begin to Bojagi, there are a list of techniques that you need to be able to master so that you can let your creativity flow in your Bojagi projects. This is a how-to video on some techniques that when you practice them, it will become second nature and will make your Bojagi experience even more enjoyable. Some of you may already know these techniques, but others may not. This video will be showing you how to thread a needle using two different needle threaders, how to make a knot, how to make a 1/4 inch seam, the whip stitch technique, and how to knot off a line of stitching. You will also be learning the base stitch, overlapping miter corners. That is a technique that will cut the bulk from corners and give a nice clean look to a project. I will show you how to start a new stitch line in the middle of an existing stitch line in cases where you may get a knot in your thread while sewing and you have to cut that thread, or you just ran out of thread. I will show you how I transition. Sometimes you just don't want your knot to show on your project, and so I will show you how to make that knot disappear when you are starting a new stitch. Once you are done with the project where you want to hide your knot tail in situations where you don't have a seam to conceal it in, I will show you how to hide that knot tail. Lastly, I will show you how to frame a project using a 3-stitch technique. There are 3 different types of needle threaders that I have used in the past. I will be showing you 2 of them in this video. These are tools that help you thread your thread through the eye of the needle. One is the hook, you can see the tiny hook, and the other is like the traditional wire threaders that you have seen in sewing kits that are in the hotel vanity set you may have gotten in the past. I'm going to show you how to thread the needle using the hook. So there is an up and a down. So you want to thread the needle with the hook up. So you put that in like that. I am left-handed, so I'm going to show you everything backwards. If you're right-handed, I'm going to hold the needle like this. And with your other hand, you kind of make a loop with your thread. And then you kind of place that loop over the hook. And then with that same hand, take the needle with your fingers and hold it. And then with your threader that you're holding, pull it through. And there you go. That's using the hook threader. Using the traditional wire threader that people typically get in sewing kits in your hotel rooms and things like that, your hardest part is probably getting this little wire small enough so that you can fit it through the eye of the needle. So take your hand and your fingers, I'm using my thumb and index finger, and kind of push them together, the wires, and kind of move them to the top so that you can get a small, tight wire that'll fit through the eye of the needle. So you get it small enough, and then you push it through the hole. When you get it through the hole, keep pushing it past this big part, which is kind of like a diamond, and have it there. I don't have it there right now. I'm just showing you that big picture. So you get that through the needle, like I do with the one with the hook. You hold it with my left hand, and then you basically take your thread and you're threading the threader through that big eye. And pull it through. Now you got that threaded. And then you do the same thing. Hold your needle with your right hand and pull the threader. And there you go. That's using the traditional threader. Now, how to make a hem. This is a 1/4 inch hem. There is a couple of ways you can do that. You can take a ruler and just measure and then fold it. With this mochi material, it's easy where you can actually use your fingers. I use my finger to mark it and then eyeball it. And then fold it. I remeasure to see if that's a 1/4 inch. The nice thing about mochi, this material, is that you can use your fingernail to create your seam. And you got your seam going with your fingernail. You can also use a tool like this to create your seam. So you take your ruler, you got your 1/4 inch, and you take your ruler and this boning tool, press really hard to create that seam. In your kit, you're going to get a needle and probably 2 yards of thread to finish your project. When you get your needle threaded, you need to cut your thread so that it's workable for you. And it's a single thread that you're going to be using. And so you will have one short end here and one long end. And on your long end is where you're going to create a knot. So the next thing you're going to do is create your knot. I'm going to do a slip knot. This is what I was taught a long time ago. So I have years of practice. What you do is take your thread at the long end, hold it with your thumb and your index finger, and loop it around your index finger. And then take your thumb, make an X like that. And then take your thumb with the short end and roll that over your index finger. And then you work it so that you can pull the thread and then you have a knot. It takes a little bit of practice and coordination. So, once again, take your thread, make a loop, make an X over your index finger, take your thumb and roll that short end over the index finger and pull and knot. If you can't do that, you can make your own knot. By looping it over your thumb and hold it, or your index finger, and hold it and push that short end through the loop and do it that way. So whichever you want to make a slip knot, that's how I have done a slip knot. So I'm teaching you how I learned. Bojagi, which is different than quilting, you have your stitch on the outside. You put your seams together and then you stitch on the outside. These are whip stitches, single stitches, kind of the same distance from the front and the back side. That's your goal. Starting with your square and with all your hems with the 1/4 inch seam allowance, you put your sides together. You can use a pin. Each of your kits are going to have a couple of pins, and just pin that edge so that you aren't going to have to hold it to keep the sides together. Take your needle that you have threaded. Remember, it's single threaded, so you have that short and the long. You will always want to have a single thread. Take your needle and put it through like that. And why I start from the inside out is to hide that knot in my project. And when you put your seams together, your knot is hidden. Your first whip stitch, you can see where your next stitch should insert and come out at the back based on the first stitch you made. You want your needle to come out in the back close to where the first stitch came out, so that your guide on the back side is where you want to be even with. Go from the front and then turn it around and see we're going to be exiting on the back, and hope it's around where that last stitch was. And if not, pull the needle back a little and reinsert. And once you're close, push your needle through and pull it. And your first stitch is going to be a little awkward just because of how you're going to start it. So kind of help it along to help create that first stitch that's going to be over and closing the corner. And then you're going to take your next stitch, go from the front to the back, front to back, always from the front to back. I put a little next to the first stitch, push your needle in, look in the back to see if you're close to that other stitch, distance-wise and lengthwise, and then pull it through. And now And now you'll have 2 stitches. And then just repeat that till you go all the way across. You want to try and stay uniformed on your stitches. And that's how you do your whip stitch. You want to try and stay uniformed on your stitches. And most of your projects in Bojagi are done with the whip stitch. So you stitch like this all the way across for this project. With time, you will get a uniform stitch. Sometimes I don't get uniform stitches and I get a little rushed, but it's one of those unique things that it's your project, and if you like it, go with it, and if you don't, rip it out and start over again. I'm going to show you how to finish your stitch. I'm going to do a couple of whip stitches and leave about a 1/4 inch or a little less than that at the end. So your last stitch, I usually overlap with the last stitch. Put your needle through a little ways like that. Take your thread that's in the back and wrap it around your needle 1, 2, 3, 4 times, something like that. And then pull your needle through, and then you got a knot. I do that one more time. Take that long loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold that, then pull your needle through, and you got a knot. And then you take your scissors and then snip kind of close to that knot, but don't cut the knot. Or you can leave a tail and so when you work that project, you can tuck that tail into the seam to hide it, like that. So with this tail, you can tuck it in between the seam and hide it. Base stitch is another stitch technique that you will be doing if you're going to be using the batting. This is a stitch that is often used in other Bojagi projects. It is used as a temporary stitch to keep materials together. For this project, you do not need to knot your thread. Insert your needle from the top side and pull it through so that you have a little thread hanging. While you are holding the hanging thread with your non-needle hand, make a big straight stitch, about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. Typically, you can just let go of the hanging thread after you make that first stitch. Keep doing this all around the square. just keep stitching. End your last stitch going down somewhere and have your tail exiting on the top square design, and then snip your thread. The overlapping miter corner is a technique that you'll be using when you are putting pieces together that have corners. You want your corners to look like this, not like this one. This creates too much bulk and does not have a clean look. How do you fix that when you get that scenario? With the back corner side, if you can, hold the front piece with your hand, and with the other hand, open up the corner. In this case, I am folding the top down like that. Press it with your fingers, then hold the other side over, fold the other side over. Press it with your fingers, and then take your front piece and work that corner into the back piece corner to get that overlapping miter look. Sometimes we get knots in our thread while we are sewing, or we just didn't figure out the right amount of thread you needed to complete a stitch line. That happens. This is what I do. If I have a knot, I cut the thread below the knot. Thread another needle, not that, then start a new stitch going from the inside of the seam, hiding my knot, trying to get as close to the base of the other thread. I pull the thread all the way through, and then I hand knot the two threads together, making sure that the knot is very close to the base. I snip the extra thread so that I have a little tail. I then tuck that tail of the previous thread line between the seams and then progress with my whip stitch with my new line. You don't want to have the knot show on the back side of your coaster, so you will want to make that knot disappear. Needle that's knotted. Go in the back side and insert your needle kind of in the middle. You want to try and shoot for the middle of the intersection, the four corners. If not, pull it out and do it again. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Okay. You don't want this knot to show on the back. Like, I don't want this knot to show on the back. So, to remove that knot, hold firm, turn it around, pull the material up, and the knot goes through. Now it's hidden. Hiding your knot tail is a technique for when you have no way of concealing the tail in a seam and you want to avoid threads sticking out on your project. Typically, this is at the end, and it just gives a clean look to your project. So I'm done with my whip stitching all the way around. I want to hide this knot that I had on the end. I knotted here. So I tuck that needle in the corner like that. That needle is tucked in there. It's not showing anywhere. I bring that needle up, through, pull it. Now I'm gonna hide that knot tail on the corner. And cut it. And there you go. Sometimes you want to frame or border your project with a nice clean stitch on top with another material or just stitching. The 3-stitch technique is a popular stitch. With a washable marker or heat pencil, you can draw a line using your ruler to create a straight guideline for your stitching. You will do 3 uniform stitches in a row, skip some space, like 1 to 2 imaginary stitches, and then repeat with 3 more uniform stitches. Continue this pattern around your project to complete the border. Keep this video saved to your YouTube library so you can return to it as a reference while you are practicing or doing your Bojagi projects. I ask you to keep the love and passion for passing on this Korean tradition of Bojagi through our future generations. Please don't let it die.